So this is going to be a continuation from our previous video where we installed Open WebUI to have it integrated with our Olama. We successfully had a chat with our own offline or local version of our model. That ensured our privacy of our data because all of our conversations are done locally on our machine. Even if we don't have any internet access, we can still chat with our own local model. However, this benefit comes at a cost. We realize that this needs much more powerful machine to process our chat or our information at a good pace. But because we're using virtual machine, we saw a huge lag on how long it took for our chat or for our model to respond and give us responses. So we're going to look at another way that we can still integrate remote model into our local version of Open WebUI. This would ensure that we have the best of both worlds. We are able to have our own local version of our model to chat offline whenever we need to. And then also if we need much more need for speed, then we can also chat with a remote model. So today we are going to go ahead and then take a quick look into briefly some of the features of Open WebUI and then also some settings or configurations to make that work for us. Let us go to the left side of our Open WebUI. We have an option for search, notes for ourselves, and then the workspace. Open WebUI has an extensive list of features that we cannot cover here. If you want more information about these features, we can head over to their website, docs.openwebui.com. And this is where we can see all the list of features this platform has. Okay, so let's go back to our platform. So from the workspace, we have an option to extend the capabilities of Open WebUI. Obviously, this will not be enough. We can go to their website and then read more about their docs and then be able to look at what options we want to do or add to our local version. But here, we can easily bring in external models from their community website, which will go there in a minute. Or we can even import a JSON file version of a model. However, these models are not extensive. They still need a base model to work on it. So for instance, we need to have a base model from Olama before we can have these community versions to run properly on it, okay? We can also bring in our own knowledge-based information, such as PDF files and stuff like that, and then chat, with that through our model. And we'll talk about this, way ahead in the future. And then we have other features such as prompts, tools, functions. These are all features that extend the capabilities of Open WebUI. And those are outside the scope of this video for today. So let's say that we want to bring in a model from their community website. So we can go here and then click on that, and that will bring us to the website. If you have an account, you can just click on sign in, and then you can sign in with your email and your password. If you do not, you can just click on create one, and you can create your account. This is completely free. So once we are logged in, we'll be presented with this interface on the community website. So we'll see we have options for features, models, tools, and even top models, and even prompts as well, which are some custom prompts people have written that you can borrow and then use on your platform. So let's say that we are interested in bringing in additional models, which is going to be integrated with whatever we have, okay? So we can click on, let's say, the top models. And let's say that we want to go for the Chat GPT-4 uncensored. We will click on that, and then we have an option to click on the Get. So if you click on Get, we have two options. We can download as a JSON file, as an export, and then import it later, or we can just import from the UI. So they actually have a placeholder for us here on port 3000. But remember, ours is on port 8080. So we can go over and then copy our URL and then come back and paste it here. And let's remove the workstation and others and then leave with only with a port number. So once we click on import WebUI, it is going to seamlessly import into our local version of WebUI, Open WebUI. All right. So now it is here. Let's walk through quickly. So you can read more about the models and the parameters and stuff like that. If you go straight to click on save and create, you see it is going to give us this message. Please select an item in the list. This is what I was telling you about the fact that these models need a base model or a seed one. So let's select from the drop down here. Yeah, let's select here, and then we should see Mistral or whichever model you have locally, and then we'll select that. And then if we go all the way down this time, and then if you want to check all these additional capabilities, by all means, you can do that. But we can just proceed and then click on save and create. And this is going to create a new model for us in our Open Web UI. So now if we go into new chat, and then click on a drop down on the model, we should now see our chat GPT-4 uncensored. We can click on that, and then it has some pre-suggested or configured prompts, which we can test it out. So let's say, do you think OpenAI is evil? What are the most popular search poses? Let's try the tell a dog humor joke, okay? And then let's try that out. Now you understand why it is uncensored, right? So just be careful on which model you choose. All right. So then again, talking about privacy, and then coming at the cost. Right now you can see it's taking us some time, and you can see my CPU is going up. So that is one downside of having our local version of our model. So after some time, we now have a response from our GPT-4 uncensored. And you can see I have hit a max on my CPU usage, okay? All right, fantastic. Let's review some of the settings of Open Web UI and then also set up our connection to a remote model using an API key. So on the right side here at the top, we can click on our username and click on settings, or we can go to the admin panel or any of these features. Or on the left side, it's the same here. If we click on our name, we'll have the same list here. So we'll click on settings. We have two types of settings within Open Web UI. We have the one which is much more local to the actual user, and then we have one which is much more of admin. So let's go to the admin because this is the one that actually impacts the entire Open Web UI that you're running. So here we have the general. There are options here that we can turn on and off. This I'll leave up to you to play around with. We have the connection. This is where we set up any connection through API or any integration with a model. So you can see that we have one for Olama already, which is the local version of ours. By default, Open Web UI also has the Open AI, API endpoint configured here. So if you're somebody who already has Open AI API key, you can just enter it here, and this will pull all the models from Open AI's platform. Okay, but we'll come back here and then make some configuration with a custom Open API endpoint. This is going to list all the models you have within your platform. For now, we only have Mistral, but as you keep adding more models, all of them will come down here. And these are all additional things that you can explore. One thing that I want us to get into right now is we do not have web search capabilities for our models for now. because we need to configure that. So here we can come over to the web search engine and then turn that on. Well, we can come to the web search and then turn that on. So once that is turned on, we have more options. Most of these web search engines do require API key. Some do not. So if we click on the drop down here and then go to select an engine, we'll have a whole list here. All of them or most of them here require API key. The only one that I have seen so far which does not require API key is DuckDuckGo. So for instance, if we select, let's say Brave, it is going to ask you for an API key here for the Brave search API key. But if we select DuckDuckGo, there's no need for us to have an API key, which is great. So let's head back to the connection and we are going to configure our platform with Open Router. So this is how Open Router look like. So you can go to the settings and then keys once you've created an account, and then you can create API key here. But before we do that, let's head over to the search model and let's type in, let's say Google, okay? And then we can select from the top, from the list, let's say Gemma, for instance, and this will take us over to Gemma. So on Gemma's page, we can scroll down and then click on the API. And this will take us to where we can create an API key on Open Router. But before we do that, let us copy the endpoint for Open Router. And let's go over to our platform. We have an option to replace this with what we have here, or we can just go to Add Connection on the right side and then paste in our Open Router API endpoint. And then let's click on Create API Key. And then we'll just click API Key here, and we'll just give it any name. I'll call mine Open WebUI. And then click on Create. And once it's created, we can click on Copy and copy our key. And then back here, we'll just paste our key here. But before we proceed to save, let's click on this Verify Connection to confirm we can actually connect to our Open Router endpoint. So once we have a verification, we can now click on Save. So if we try to click on Save, we are going to have this message because the Open AI API key is empty. So let's just click on Configure and then click on Delete and then confirm the deletion. And now if we click on Save, that should have our API key updated. So now if we go into New Chat and click on New Chat, and then we click on the drop down, we are going to see a lot of models now because this is coming from our integration with Open Router. In fact, if we type in, let's say free, this will give us all the free models that we can use from Open Router. So let's say we decide to use DeepSeek version 1 here. And this time, if we try to say, let's explain options trading, and then click on that, and then click on chat. Now you can see this is doing much more than what we had previously with our local version of model. And this is much more faster than our local model. So there's always a trade-off. You can have your cake and eat it at the same time, right? If you want privacy, yes, you can have it, but you may have to take a hit when it comes to performance. If you don't care about privacy and you want to still use third-party or remote model, you can still have that integrated within your Open WebUI. So we end up having both of the best of both worlds. Okay. All right. So now let's go and then do one more thing within the settings. So let's go back to settings. And if this time we go to the admin settings and then click on models, It's pulling up all the models that we have obtained from Open WebUI. So these are all the models that we have from Open Router, Open Router instead. So sometimes you may not need all these models. You can customize which ones you want to show here. So you don't have to go through a list of tens of models. So the best way for you to do is to enable or disable the ones that you do want or you do not want. So by clicking on this will toggle off any model that you do not need. So you can narrow it down to only few ones that you do need for your work. Okay, once that is done, you can go back to your new chat and you see that the list of models you have from here has drastically reduced. Fantastic. Now, there's one more feature that also comes with Open WebUI that I would like you to take a look at. If we go in here to the select model and then we type in any model that does not exist currently within our list of models, we can actually have it downloaded or pulled from from Ollama. So for instance, if we type in 5.3 and 5.3 is not here, we can actually do this directly from Open WebUI. So you don't even have to go to command line with Ollama to download that. We can have it done from Open WebUI. And I think it's very, very great by being able to download a model directly from Open WebUI. So for instance, we don't have 5.3 here. So we have an option to pull 5.3 from Ollama. So if you click on that, we'll begin to pull that. So pulling manifest, and it's going to give us a percentage tracking of downloading this model into our Open WebUI. Because this will take some time, this is how you can get a model up into your Open WebUI directly without using command line from Ollama. I hope this was helpful for us to be able to now integrate offline model and then also remote model into our Open WebUI, and at the same time being able to even download models directly from Open WebUI without having to go through a command line. Thank you for watching.